Yes, this 6-year-old girl was born a boy.
We'll say things like, God made you special, because there aren't very many little girls out there that have a penis.
It's a big old belly.
Belly Bob is back.
Oh my God.
Leave it.
Why do I do this?
In this video we will be taking a look at the real-time experiment that TLC has been conducting for the last 7 years. This is a touchy subject and channels that have spoken on this topic have been silenced on YouTube. I only hope I do not suffer the same fate as Exulanzika IP. I Am Jazz premiered on July 15, 2015. It is an American reality TV show on TLC about Jazz, a male-to-female identified transgender young adult. As Jazz's Wikipedia page says, Jazz was assigned male at birth. At the early age of 4, Jazz was diagnosed with gender dysphoria. His parents Greg and Jeanette allowed him to transition on his 5th birthday. At age 6, Jazz was interviewed by Barbara Walters to discuss his gender identity. During his childhood, Jazz launched a foundation, co-wrote a book, and started a YouTube channel. The show focuses on the daily life of Jazz and her family. Jazz has 3 older siblings, her sister Ari and twin brothers Sander and Griffin. Her appearances include a documentary, short film and Hulu animated children's series. TLC intended to not only make Jazz a celebrity but more importantly a role model. What they ended up doing was showcasing her family's need for attention and the devastating effects that transitioning can have on a child. Older trans individuals such as T.S. Madison have spoken out against Jazz's early medical interventions.
I've met a few trans girls who, after they have had the sex reassignment surgery, they just went crazy.
Really?
Yes.
People have condemned Jazz's parents for allowing her to be put on puberty blockers at age 11 and undergoing bottom surgery at 16. A theory as to why the Jennings allowed their child to transition is that the mother, Jeanette, has Munchausen by proxy. Munchausen syndrome by proxy is a factitious disorder imposed on another in which a caregiver creates the appearance of health problems in another person, typically their child. This may include injuring the child. Permanent injury or death may occur as a result of the disorder. A popular example of this in the media is Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Gypsy was a perfectly healthy child whose mother forced her to stay in a wheelchair and administered a cocktail of unnecessary medications. In Jazz's case, permanent injury has been caused to her previously healthy body. The primary motive is to gain attention. More than 95% of cases involve a person's mother. Jazz's mother Jeanette was always the main instigator in Jazz's transition. She was the one who diagnosed him with gender identity disorder by cracking open the DSM-5. Apparently, Jazz was the first 2-year-old to master the pronunciation and meaning of the word genitalia.
What was the first time that you had any inkling that this little boy, Jazz, was different?
The day she came up to me, and I'll never forget it, Barbara, she said, "Mommy, when's the good fairy gonna come with her magic wand and change, my genitalia?"
How old was Jazz then?
2.
At 2, Jazz came to you and said, "When is a good fairy going to, I guess, take off my penis?"
Right, and make it into a vagina. Yes.
Another possibility is that Greg and Jeanette refused to accept that they had a gay son. There are plenty of feminine men who identify more with girls that do not turn out to be transgender. They hijacked Jazz's development before he even got a chance to figure out who he wanted to be. Jazz is also extremely interested in drag culture and has performed as a drag queen. Why would she call herself a drag queen if she truly believed she was a woman? Jazz later states in the series that she identifies as pansexual, meaning she is attracted to all genders. I think she believes she is pansexual because she does not experience sexual attraction and sensation of any kind. She is likely asexual because her development was halted when she was unable to go through puberty due to medical intervention. After bottom surgery where her microschlong was inverted, a doctor asked her if she had any sensation. She stated that she hadn't experienced the big O before, and her libido was even further suppressed when she started taking estrogen. It seems Jazz's parents were willing to sacrifice all functionality for appearance, and now Jazz is suffering the consequences. Her bottom surgery, which mutilated her reproductive organs, did not go smoothly. Jazz had to go through multiple revisions because her body was rejecting the operation.
Color of the skin right along the edge of the wound, you want it to be nice and pink, but it was looking dusky, kind of bluish, which can be a sign of too much tension, there not being enough blood supply. So I was pretty worried at that point.
After being put on puberty blockers for years, her parts weren't able to reach the normal size. This put Jazz at risk of not having enough material to have the surgery, and they almost had to take pieces of her colon to complete the operation. They now call this part a vagina, but it is more like an open wound. After the last operation, Jazz now has to dilate her wound so it doesn't seal up and loses depth. This is all for the sake of penetration at the expense of sensation and her health. In all cases, male to female bottom surgery is an incredibly harmful procedure and should honestly be banned. Doctors seem to have forgotten their oath to do no harm.
Oh wow, that's the most I've ever seen. That's really gotta go. Seeing myself weigh 234 pounds, it's devastating.
Jazz's parents claimed they had to let Jazz transition due to her depression and anxiety. But it seems transitioning has only negatively impacted her mental health. After completing her surgeries, Jazz still struggles with her depression and anxiety. Jazz even had to take a hiatus from the show and put off attending university due to her depression and anxiety. TLC recognized that Jazz's plummeting mental and physical health, however, would be great for ratings and renewed the show. Jazz has other behavioral issues as well. It is known that Jazz has suffered from binge eating
I know
for
better.
years.
I've been in this place before. I shouldn't be making these mistakes again.
Jazz's complications from puberty blockers seemingly induced prader-willi syndrome. Although this syndrome is usually inherited due to missing genes, the altering of Jazz's hormones may have triggered it. Prader-Willi syndrome symptoms include excessive hunger, rapid weight gain, underdeveloped sex organs, behavioral problems with anxiety and depression, poor muscle tone. Jazz complains multiple times throughout the series about her weak ankles, which she contributes her decreased mobility to. It is no secret that Jazz has put on 100 pounds in a short amount of time. She is now classified as morbidly obese. The way she describes her compulsion to eat is very similar to this syndrome.
Is the world of Prader-Willi syndrome, a rare and incurable genetic disorder best known for its insatiable appetite. People with the condition stare down the barrel of morbid obesity and an early death.
Not since we were little have I seen Jazz go grocery shopping.
It's a lot of spinach.
Good. And I'm happy for her, but I'm also curious what she slipped in that cart that she's not telling everyone about.
Her family is often shown to be unsupportive and demeaning to Jazz. There are weird sexual overtones to the show. The whole family seems to have a lack of boundaries toward personal subjects like their bodies and intimate life. This seems to have rubbed off on Jazz. They often have conversations about genitalia and sexual acts. I think living in the public eye and various forms of abuse has damaged Jazz's ability to form proper boundaries. Violent acts of assault or trauma, and extended periods of emotional or sexual abuse, have significant enduring negative effects on the development of boundaries. Children who have been abused often are not allowed to, or are never given the chance, to learn their boundaries. For example, when a child is sexually abused, this leads to confusion over the very basic rules of ownership of the body. Instead of learning that their body is their own and no one else is allowed to touch it without the child's permission, they learn that their body is to be hurt, abused or manipulated by others. They learn that their bodies are not their own. How could Jazz believe her body is her own when it has been so heavily altered at such a young age? This environment has had a similar effect on her brother Sander. Sander seems intent on finding a trans woman to date when he is heterosexual.
Wasn't sure if I could take the next step, moving into something physical with the trans woman who has not had the bottom surgery. And today, if that woman was the woman that I think could be my partner forever, I'd be able to figure out a way to still have like a physical connection without really being into their genitalia. And when I date a trans woman, I'm gonna be proud of it.
It seems like he is really taking after Jeanette to pursue trans women just for more attention. If you have to force yourself to be in a relationship with someone just to be woke, then you shouldn't be in that relationship in the first place. The general tone of the show grew darker over the seasons. Multiple surgical revisions to Jazz's gaping wound between her legs shattered all illusions of the show. Most of the last season focused on Jazz's mental health and weight struggles. The parents desperately pushed Harvard on Jazz even if it was beyond her. Ultimately, the family refuses to admit their wrongdoing in the situation.
All I want to do is be
You
honest
just make
with you.
me feel really bad about myself.
Because I'm honest?
I just feel like I'm a joke.
You're not a joke. You're an inspiration.
Why?
After checking out her latest posts on Instagram, it looks like Jazz did get shipped off to Harvard. Now Jazz can be a regular Leah Thomas on the lacrosse field. No, but the disparity in physical fitness between the two is a clear example of the harmful effects of transitioning at 6 years old. What do you think about the Jennings family? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below.